Hello, my name's Callum Pearce. I'm going to read a small excerpt from one of my stories, Marvellous. Marvellous takes place in a world that's had all of the magic and creativity and colour sucked out of it, and we'll be joining an imp and a young boy who are trying to bring it all back. Oliver left his grey house to walk down his nondescript street into the drab and dull town centre. He tended to walk with his head down. He was always pretty sure that there would be nothing to see if he bothered to raise it. Everything was dull and dreary, but he'd never really known things to be any different. Oliver expected nothing more from the world. Somewhere, really deep inside him, he had a strange tickling feeling that suggested that things could be different. But he buried that feeling beneath chores and schoolwork as he trudged through life, quite unaware of how miserable his world really was. Arriving in the town centre, a strange noise reached his ears, forcing him to lift his head and gaze across the road. At first, he was certain that he couldn't possibly be seeing what he saw. But then, imagination wasn't something he was ever troubled by. Nobody in this world was bothered by such things. Across the road, two of the dull grey shops had sidled away from each other, making room for another shop to fill the space between them. He watched as a new shop built itself from the ground up. Bricks jumped on top of other bricks, and a door walked into the space that had been left for it. Windows and frames seemed to grow out of the bricks. Through the glass he could see shelves appearing all around the shop. Large glass jars faded into view, filled with strange little blobby things. It didn't look like any of the shops around it. He didn't have a word for what it was that made it stand out. Just not grey or dull and lifeless like everything else. He could feel that buried tickling feeling growing inside him. When faced with such an impossible and alien thing, most people would walk or run in the other direction. They would try their best to forget it had ever happened. Crossing the road to take a closer look, Oliver realised that he wasn't as much like everyone else as he had always assumed himself to be. The knot grey was everywhere inside. Every shelf was filled with different shades of knot grey. It was quite overwhelming. He stood back and watched words painting themselves above the large windows. "Marvellous munchies," it said. A strange-looking man appeared behind the counter inside in a puff of sparkles. He smiled at him through the window and beckoned him inside with a bony finger. Fear was rising inside him, but that tickling feeling was rising too. He found his feet moving towards the door without even deciding to go in there. "Oh, I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get here." The strange man spoke as though they were old friends. "I had to supercharge my magic in another reality just to be able to exist here." "I just saw this shop build itself," Oliver began. "That can't happen. If you want to know how to get back the colour and the magic in the world, then make sure you get a copy of Candy Capers."